On Production is brought to you by Wrapbook, the production industry's only on-demand payroll platform. With Wrapbook, you can pay your crew with a click and track all your costs in real time, all in one place. To find out more about how Wrapbook is transforming the way productions pay their crews, visit wrapbook.com.
Hello and welcome to On Production, brought to you by Wrapbook. I'm your host, Cary Woodworth, and this is where we explore the art, business, and craft of bringing stories to life on screen. Today, we're diving into the world of global productions, cross-cultural collaborations, and building a thriving production business. Our guest is Cary Woodworth, who is a multi-talented actor turned producer who founded Legacy Pictures and Maverick. From bringing Hollywood expertise to Chinese film sets to spearheading international co-productions, Cary has built a reputation for bridging cultures and pushing boundaries in both film and commercial work. He's known for his connector leadership style, collaborating with talent around the globe, nurturing new filmmakers, and helping stories find their perfect home. I've met him in New York, in Los Angeles, in Vegas. We've worked together a long time. So if you've ever wondered what it takes to balance artistic passion with the demands of running multiple production companies, or how to navigate the logistical and cultural hurdles of filming across continents, this episode's for you. Thanks for joining me, Cary.
Thank you very much. That was like the nicest introduction I've ever had. Thank you.
I have a bunch of really interesting questions for you because you've had such an interesting career as a filmmaker. So, you once produced a film remotely while you were on the other side of the world acting in a TV show.
Yeah.
So, what did that experience teach you about managing a production team at a distance, and how those lessons influenced the way you run your company, especially in today's era of remote collaboration?
It's interesting. I don't know how you found that out. You guys did a lot of good research. I remember I was acting in a series in China, and it was a film in New York, and this was 2011. I remember that clearly. I just something that had to be done because we were just very passionate about the project and about getting it made and made well. So I worked with, built out a production team there on the ground, and get calls at 3 a.m. or whatever it took. And it was interesting when Zoom came out. I remember before that WebEx and stuff, you never really thought about remote production like that as a possibility. This was a little different because it was a little smaller of a film. I knew how to go in and out. I knew that like on the ground production work in New York, and I knew what we could potentially run into. So it wasn't so weird, but I think doing it, if I thought of then what we do now over, time zones, multiple countries, whatnot, it blew my mind. I just believe with everything, with the technology now, like literally anything's possible. And I think we've been applying that from day one. We've been very always thinking globally, even if we're working locally. Like now we're working even on some of our US projects that we're doing post overseas and not just in one country. I mean, we've built out a whole structure for post that's just amazing, working in 4 or 5 different countries at the same time and smoothly. So that's been really cool.
In an old interview, you said that producing requires you to be the mommy, daddy, organizer, and leader all at once. Can you share a concrete example from your career where you truly had to wear all of those hats on a project? And how did you balance being a nurturing supporter and a tough decision maker in that situation?
I say that I do that every day because I am a dad, a motherly dad in real life. And I think it just kind of comes with everything we do. And that's across the board with everyone on our team. We're all playing different roles. Sorry, what was your second question?
It's really like, how have you found the balance of being both the nurturing supporter and the tough decision maker in these types of complex production situations?
There's things that need to get done in production that you always have to look at those things being done. And it doesn't matter, everyone has an ego and we embrace that everyone has an ego. But if that's in the way of it getting done, then we need to fix that. So if it's replacing that person or changing the model, and it's not just ego, I mean, whatever is in the way of the production from it happening. So you can restructure, you know what needs to get done, and you know what kind of checkpoints you need to look at. And as long as those things are getting hit, then you're okay. But you can restructure the model. Or, for example, you might be in a situation where, because we're physically limited from, we're in a very sensitive area. We've shot in government areas where it's very sensitive for certain governments or certain companies, leaking information. So a crew has to be really tight. So you have to double up or triple up on roles. In the system, you have to build out that system. And well, as long as record, we need to record the video, we need to record the sound. We got to make sure that continuity, we got to make sure that everything's on time. It's like those essential things are hit, and everyone eats, and everyone has a bathroom. So it's like those essential things to production. When you have that in place, then you can rejigger that model. So as far as like playing the different roles of being motherly, but also maybe tough on folks, what's really important is being, listening to where they're coming from and understanding what they're going through. But at the same time, there's a job we need to do. And if someone's like, look, I just don't feel comfortable doing this, but it needs to get done, whatever it is. Like, I don't feel comfortable lifting C-stands. I didn't think that was it. I thought I was just buying crafty. Well, that's your job as a PA. So you're just not doing your job, and we're going to have to let you go and replace you. So that's just kind of part of the job. So again, it really depends on where they're coming from, and we try to be as understanding as possible, but we have to get things done.
That's great. Shifting a little bit, Cary, is it true that you speak Mandarin?
Yes.
That's awesome. So you've straddled Hollywood and the Chinese film industry,
Yeah.
and not just as a producer, but also as an actor who speaks Mandarin.
Correct.
What's something that you think Hollywood could learn from Chinese filmmakers and vice versa based off of your cross-culture experiences?
In China, it was kind of like, it's a longer story, but their model of their filmmaking model, where they learned filmmaking, was started from studios that really, well, it kind of started a long, long time before that, but they had these studios, these government sanctioned studios that had almost like a theater troupe. It had a kind of model to it. And then after that, they learned from Hong Kong, and then they learned like pieces from Hong Kong. And
Like Jackie Chan came up in one of those theaters, right?
in Hong Kong, yeah, he was a theater troupe, yeah. And it's like the Shanghai Film Studio. They had their own studio, which is kind of like their troupe, and it was very regimented in kind of like a structure. But they learned a lot from that into growing into more Hollywood and whatnot. It's kind of funny. They took pieces of different things, and then you apply Chinese business mindset, which is very different from the US. I would say one thing that they do that we can learn a lot from them, I would say, is they know systems. They know systems as far as like business systems, and being able to follow the systems to a T, or to benefit their projects, or disrupt them. And they do that with every business. I mean, look at like Temu and how they used the US post office, and how, just any business, they always are understanding. You find some of the best Amazon sellers are out of China, because they understand, they look into they do the work that I don't want to do, which is go in and say, oh, how do I maximize opportunity in this? So business-wise, they're very smart that way. I think there's a lot that, I mean, it's two different systems. So as far as learning, they have been learning a lot from the US, and about, filmmaking techniques. And I mean, there's just so much cross education that's been going on for a number of years. I mean, I was a part of that, like helping to bring folks from other parts of the world to China to learn about wardrobe and cinematography and all kinds of things. So there's a lot of that, and it's very developed there now in China. So, but one thing, for example, these like, and I'm sure you know about these vertical series, micro series that are coming out of China, officially Singapore, and they're coming out of different countries. They're shooting all over the world. It's a very big business, and it came from essentially the Silicon Valley of China. And how it all started is really smart. And that's something we can learn, is there's opportunities to create content, to create stories from things that we never would expect to. And I think the Chinese have found those nooks through their technology, which is super, super, I admire those folks that took the step and created those opportunities for TikTok, all of that, which was called Douyin in China.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just seeing the news stories coming out about this micro storytelling. It's so interesting because I look at the amazing work that Katzenberg did to build Quibi. Like, Quibi got, like, panned by the media, but, like, it's potentially before its time, or, like, it had distribution problems, whereas, like, TikTok has the distribution mechanism. But it's just interesting to see how this is emerging.
Quibi, I think they took a Hollywood model to it a little too quickly. Instead of developing the audience, they just threw in famous people and things like that, and stories that they thought not everyone in America necessarily wanted to see in a model they weren't used to. While this is just like very low budget soap operas that are very modeled in, it's very old school, let's just say, where the man is the hero and the woman is, and it's just, and they know it. They just know that that's what they're making money on.
I had a really wonderful guest on the podcast with a business called Cold Open, and it's all about mid-form content. And the observation that was so interesting was, like, if you look at a lot of IP that's become extremely successful, is it started as mid-form or short-form content, build an audience, and then, like, you can extend out those stories and build, like, just really different types of multi-platform content as it matures. So it's super interesting. So your business is Legacy Pictures, and Legacy calls itself a team of creators, connectors, and collaborators. As a leader, how do you cultivate that collaboration across your teams, spread across Los Angeles, Beijing, Vancouver, and beyond? Like, how do you do it so that your offices feel like they're a part of the same legacy and standards?
Like we have meetings and meetups all the time. So there's always ways that in times we always are finding, and people working in different hours, we find times where it all intersects, and we make sure to have that consistently. And we're really just accountable to each other. And I think that creating that accountability environment is really important. We don't talk badly about each other, and we make sure to be very cognizant of that kind of, because that's just negative speak. It's not helpful. And we know that. I mean, you can get frustrated and be like, that person did this. So annoying. And you need to let it out. But what we do is we have systems in place that we make it so that there's a good positive environment. There's a lot of SOPs that we have to follow to make sure that this works, because we need to think of time zone, culture, and communication. Like, for example, we work a lot in India, right? We have people in India, we have producers, coordinators, whatnot. And we need to make sure that in the Indian culture, it's like you just respect your boss, but you just say yes. Is this aspect of the project done? Yes, yes, yes. It's all good. And it's actually not. They just don't want to ruffle any feathers, and then they rush to get, and that's not a good thing to do. So we have to make sure there's alignment in that communication, and we know the culture to know that that could be a situation in advance. So therefore we kind of nip that in the bud early on. And so it's kind of knowing those things by trial and error and experience, and that helps us a lot. But as far as like that alignment, you find superstars. We're always looking. I will say we're always looking for talent. We're always interviewing. I will say I'm always interviewing. Even if it's not like, I'm looking for someone today, I'm always interviewing. Always I'm looking for superstars.
It's interesting you should say that. You've mentioned up-and-coming filmmakers. I found a quote from one young director that even said you, quote, "believed in me and really mentored me." What do you look for in a new talent or projects that convinces you to invest your time and resources? And has mentoring others taught you anything, or perhaps even influenced how you approach your own creative projects?
I would say 100%. I would say I never had a mentor, and I wish I did. And I still wish I do, actually. I kind of was like, it'd be great to, as an actor, I still kind of like, I should write to Daniel Day-Lewis, or, you know, actually like more like,
Buy a pair of shoes off with him or something, yeah.
kind of a little thing with, Al Pacino at one point. And, I just those kind of things. But finding those mentors. I think I've found certain folks that have kind of helped me and I've reached out to them for guidance, but not as a full-fledged mentor. I always have the door open to folks because I know how hard it is. For me, service is really important, and service to clients like Amazon. What are you, customer obsessed or whatever, client obsessed? It's the same kind of thing. We're client obsessed, but we're also like team obsessed. So we really want people to get a good experience and grow from this. This is a hard business. People don't make a lot of money. It's very, very difficult. And we have interns that come. Most internships in film don't get paid. And so it's a very, very, like what Robert De Niro said, like if you could do anything else, just do it. Don't do, and I will say it's a hard business. So I always am really appreciative of folks. And because of that, I just want them to grow in their journey in ways that, because it's so difficult, and really knowing what you want. The clearer you know what you want, the clearer you can get to where you need to go. I believe that. So I love to do that. So from that experience, and I've seen some folks, it's really like there's a few I can pull out where it's like, oh, we started as an intern or a PA, and then they were DPing our a couple of our shoots, and they, you know what I mean, went on to the union and all of that. Like that's so exciting for me to watch that growth and be a part of it, like serving a part of it. Like a few people, it was like, oh, here you're a camera PA, here you're second AC, now you're, and with that, I think it definitely gave me the ability to listen more, really listen for cues, know how to ask. Because a lot of folks, they're like, oh yeah, I just want to film, I want to make film, and they're not clear. I found ways to be able to listen and ask the questions and really listen for those things that actually help them to see what it is that's exciting them. Because it's hard. It's hard. When I was 20 whatever years old, I was just like, I don't know what I want. I knew I wanted to act, and I was acting in my early 20s, but I wasn't clear. I was just kind of like going to any audition, going for anything. Just do it. You have a job, anything. So it's that. And then now I know what I love and what I don't love, and I'm a lot more picky in the sense that I don't have the time to just do whatever and be in whatever. And I don't want to.
That's awesome. You know, what's been so interesting about your career is you've moved into all different types of roles. You've been fluidly between indie art films, big brand commercials. You have another company called Maverick. How does your creative process shift when you're preparing a narrative feature for a festival versus a commercial for a corporate client? And do you find that working in advertising has made you a better filmmaker, or maybe vice versa?
That's a great question. So we have essentially three businesses, right? One is the production development of films and TV. That's Legacy. We actually have a new business. The production services is a different company. So production and post services. And then there's Maverick, which is commercial production. So that's mainly working with agencies, sometimes brands. I'd say it's a different tone. It's a different vibe in the commercial space. As you know, I mean, we met at AICP, and it definitely has a different vibe than going to AFM, or it's a different interest. It's a different production is different. The budget structure is different. What they look for, shorter turnarounds, but also like I find a lot of commercial folks would like to be making films that have win Oscars or whatnot. They love awards, and I know filmmakers that cross both. Directors. We rep directors that go on both sides.
I mean, I think Fellini actually did commercials in his career. I think so. I think I saw one for like I think so. I'll confirm that for the show notes. But I'm pretty sure, huge directors have done commercials forever.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's where Fincher, Ridley Scott, I mean, they all started with commercials, and they're still doing them. I mean, Ridley Scott has RSA. I mean, they all have, and they have companies and whatnot. And but commercials it's a great way to explore. One thing I really love about it's like when the creative has that freedom to explore different ways of telling stories or different, it's actually amazing. Like, I don't know if you remember what that, the
Yeah, of course. Iconic.
and from that built his film career. You know what I mean? Like he's done a bunch of stuff. He did like Drumline. I just think that there's a lot of when you find that thing that people like, whoa, it
I'm
leads.
laughing thinking about the WhatsApp conver I mean, it's just so good. It's so genius.
But I'd say just to answer your question, like working in that, shifting back and forth from film to commercials, it's a different mindset. It's interesting for me. Actually, I really enjoy both in different ways. For me, production service is like it's like a different, I wear a different hat. Like I'm like the person who's like solving any kind of solutions. It's more of a, what is the client looking to, get done more aesthetically or execute on creatively. And then on the film stuff, it's like, it's a whole smorgasbord of, we got to get this talent and all of these nuts and bolts to be able to move it to get made, which is so difficult. Anyone who says it's easy, I don't know. Either they're geniuses or they're lying.
That brings me to my next question, which is, what do you think is an underrated skill or trait that you believe every producer should have, but many don't? In your own journey, was there a skill you had to develop the hard way that you now consider essential to your success?
Yeah, and I'm still developing it. I would say valuation. I am a math nerd and I love the reason I got into this like line producing and production services was because I was acting, but it was the numbers and the budgets. Like I'm really into that. Like I really enjoy that. And most people don't like that. So because of that, it was like being the bass player in the band where, oh, someone's got to do it. I was like, oh, I'll do it. I love it. I love it. It's so much fun. And I'm not talking about the valuation of, oh, that sweater you're wearing, Cameron. I can tell how much it is, which I really love to do. But I mean valuation as far as like a project. If a lot of filmmakers like believe in the story, they believe in the project, but they can't see where the home is for that project and working backwards. I used to early on, and I failed so much, like so much more than I fail now, where I take a project and you feel like, oh well, the script's not there yet, but we have this and it could be great. And we have and you're going around trying to take these projects around and push them through when they're not even ready. But you're not thinking about where's it going to be distributed? Who's the audience? Does it make sense for this budget for that audience? And you have to think backwards. So you have to always look at, imagine the film is complete, done. Where is the best place for it to play? How many people are going to watch it? What kind of awards is it going to win? Well, those business aspects of it, because people don't think about that because they're just thinking about the film, which I understand completely. But you have to take on that hat or that perception, that POV to be able to like, once you're walking backwards, then you can know what you need to be able to move forward. So I do believe in that valuation.
Your favorite film is reportedly Fellini's La Dolce Vita.
Yeah, I know. It's funny you brought up Fellini. Yeah.
What about that film speaks to you as a storyteller? And can you give me an example of how it influenced either your artistic taste or your approach to production?
Hmm. Well, I wouldn't say approach to production because I've heard Fellini would be like literally calling out of a megaphone and being like, you go there, smile, whatever. According to Ilya Kazan's book, that's where I got that from. But that film specifically, I mean, I love his other films too, but that film was the only film for me that captured every aspect of life in one film. And I'm talking about greed, love, I mean, yeah, undying love. Everything is in that film. And the best thing about that film is that it's still playing. Like it's still going. If you watch the film to the end and you watch the ending of the film, it's not ending. That's how brilliant the film is. It's about life. And it's called the sweet life. Is that the translation? And there's some things, and I think the term paparazzi came out of it because one of the characters was paparazzo. But like those are some aspects of it in the 1960 in Rome. But what it's just amazing how many things if you go through Steiner and all of the different characters and what they go through. I mean, my God, it's so rich. And that for me was just like, wow. And in a film that it's not boring. It's not like I'm sitting there for 17 hours. It was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, but I don't feel like it. So for me, it's just like, wow. And I keep finding more things in that film.
That's awesome. Looking forward, what do you see as the next big frontier in film and television production that excites you? You've been a part of conversations on digital media and cross-border entertainment. Is there a trend like virtual production or streaming globalization or AI in filmmaking that you think is overhyped, or conversely, one that's underappreciated that you're positioning yourself for?
That's a really great. Yeah, now I'm gonna start positioning and working on that. I'm just trying to day by day on all the projects. It's a balancing act. I will say what I see. I definitely think AI is going to change everything. I mean, it already is changing things. We're using it as a tool, but soon tastes will change. AI will be accepted by folks, especially younger audiences. There'll always be a space for real people. There will always be a space for real documentary. And there's always going to be space for real people in narrative live action projects. And there's going to be a hybrid too, because there already is. We've used it for projects for clients for, they've had situations where they wanted to show like a low budget project, and they wanted to show like something that happens in the past, and it was like a recreation, and used AI. It was fine. Used AI for dubbing. We've used AI obviously for storyboards and for pulling images a lot for the commercial industry. I mean, for your decks, a lot of treatments are using AI images because it's easier. Oh, we need to, you know, we're shooting a commercial. We want to, pitch for Coke, but we can't use any Pepsi products. But the images are all the Pepsi product images are perfect, but we can't do that. Oh, let's throw it in ChatGPT and make an image and looks like this, and there you go. It's not really for commercial consumption, but the AI dubbing, especially in Asia, like India, there's no issue with that there. There's no like here. There's companies that are like, forget about it. We don't do it. Monks, for example, like they're not doing it or whatever. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's something that it's going to just happen. It's just more about being cognizant of what's available for audiences and future audiences. So that because for me, the human touch is. I still think film is better than video. I really do. We use all kinds of video. We shoot on Alexas and whatnot, but I still think film is better. I think it just looks better, feels better, and I can tell. Not everyone can, and the other audiences maybe. I just hope that there's that availability of information. We're actually making a film, a sci-fi feature called The Order of the Flesh with Jason Mann, and it talks about the future of humankind. And it's a very bleak view of where our education is, what we become. And I think people should be very cognizant of, education and having that, just being able to not like just go to things for convenience, because it dumbs us down over time. I think with convenience, like any industry, it's going to change, and it changes I don't know when, what year, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 3 years or whatever, but it's changing it, and it's gonna change it. And production is going to change completely. Absolutely. The world's getting smaller, much quicker, and we're a big part of that. I still see where the disconnect. It's like amazing. Big companies that we do work for, and they don't know anyone in those places. And I'm like, wow, how are we able to? We don't, you want to go to Uzbekistan? Oh yeah, So it's like it's just interesting that way.
Like you mentioned, you and I met in the commercial world. I have a background in production. My story, like yours, is like it went into this production services world with Wrapbook, but at the end of the day, fundamentally, I still think stories are powerful. And something I was always amazed by, even preceding all this AI revolution stuff, is just like, exactly to your point, how much access filmmakers get. Like that's just the nature of the job. Is like, yeah, we're going to use Uzbekistan. We're going to interview the mayor of Paris. We're going to whatever. You just like constantly meeting all these interesting people. Something that's fascinating I was thinking about recently with AI is there's a great economist named Tyler Cowen who said that he's actually been writing his most recent books not for human audiences, but for LLMs. Like he thinks of the content that he's producing originally as like potentially good training material. And like I do wonder about that in relation to filmmakers in the future of expressing poetics in such a way that the intended audience is for the LLM so that in a world where somebody is having content generated for them,
Mm-hmm.
that its training meta story is from some other artist somewhere. I think that's like a really interesting idea.
Yes.
Um, and I'm curious to see how it all plays out.
Sorry, what was the name? Tyler?
Tyler Cowen, he's an economist at George Mason University.
Okay, great.
Well, Cary, thank you so much for joining me on production. You are just such an incredible well of fascinating insights, and you have a really unique career. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you. It was great. I'm glad we made this happen.
Me too.
On Production is brought to you by Wrapbook. With automated time card calculations, real-time production accounting, and payroll you can run with just a click, Wrapbook makes it easier than ever to manage your entire production from one login. To learn more about how Wrapbook is transforming payroll and production accounting, check out our website at wrapbook.com.